Jeffrey here at JTech, diesel technician class, and what I'll do is show you today how to do a quick inspection on your drum brakes. On air brakes in a normal environment, you're going to have air pressure in these because these are pneumatic brakes. So always be careful. These spring brakes here have a lot of force in them. They can kill you. Always make sure you cage your brakes properly, chalk your wheels. It's very important. You don't want to die. Always wear your glasses. You don't want to lose your eyes. It's very important. It's very dangerous sometimes. So first we've got our test unit here. You can see we've got the wheels and the drums off. Right here you can see the linings on the drum brakes. DOT standards for the linings are that the pads can be no less than 1/4 inch. So you can see obviously these have been worn pretty down. So that's one of the important things. DOT, you gotta have 1/4 inch at least on your lining. When inspecting your brakes, you need to check your S-cam as well. A lot of times here, these rollers will get grease on them, which will cause them to stick, which will result in flat spots where the rollers won't roll properly. Always inspect your S-cam, make sure it's properly rounded, no flat spots. Very important. Also on the drums, we want to cover that there's going to be some cracking on these. That's normal. These get very hot. There's going to be some heat cracking. It's important to note though that as long as the cracks don't touch and cover more than 25% of the drum, it's perfectly normal and acceptable. But if it does exceed 25% of the drum like in a single crack, you're going to have to replace the drum. It's no longer safe. For DOT, the lip where the linings ride cannot be any more than 1/8 of an inch deep. So no more than 1/8 of an inch on your lip. And also the DOT standards for the run out on the drum is also 0.12 inches. So for these 16.5 inch drums, it can be no more than 16.620 on the run out. Now we've got an actual truck over here, so what we're going to do is we're going to stop this, move over there, and I will show you how to check your slack adjuster. So here we are in our truck, and what we've got here is our air chamber for our air brakes and our slack adjuster. This is a T20 service chamber. It's no spring brake because this is a steer axle, not a drive axle. There's no parking brake up here. And our slack adjuster. Now these have already been pre-adjusted, so what I'll do is I'll have my guy in the truck press the brakes and you can see the travel of the slack adjuster, and I'll explain the proper measurements for that. So you see there we've got the movement of the slack adjuster. Now for the steer axles, since it's only a T20 chamber, we're only supposed to have up to 1 3/4 of travel on the slack adjuster, and there shouldn't be any more than a 90-degree angle between the arm and the slack adjuster. And that of course is a spec, and now if we were out of spec, we'd go ahead and adjust it, put it back in, and then check it again. So that's it. Other than checking your fittings, your air hoses, making sure everything's tight and no leaks, that's your basic brake inspection. And then show you how to adjust your brakes on your big rig. So what we're going to do, we're going to show you how to adjust your slack adjusters, measure the travel of the rod in the service chamber, and then how to compare the measurements on both sides to make sure that you're within specifications. So first thing we need to do is we need to tighten up the slack adjuster until it's all the way tightened. You know it's tight because it'll tighten the drum down and the wheel will not spin. Next step is to back it off until the wheel will spin free of the drum. Just try and spin the tire. You'll listen, you'll hear it when it's free of the drum. You'll feel it too. Once that's done, once you have your adjusted, we'll go ahead and have somebody apply the brakes, and we'll measure the travel of the rod here, and we'll see what it is. Let's go ahead and apply the brakes. So you notice the travel of the push rod here. We're going to measure that. Alright, go ahead and let off the brakes. So as you saw there, we had about a 1.5 inch movement, just a little bit under that on our driver's side brakes. So next we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on our passenger side drive wheels. And from there, we're going to measure we're going to compare the measurements on both sides because they need to be within a 1/4 inch of each other on the travel on the push rod. Now the reason why we go with 1 3/4 on these wheels is because the chambers for the service air brakes, these are T20 size chambers, and by specifications those can only have 1 3/4 travel. Now your rear wheels will probably have a larger chamber, which will be a different measurement, so you need to look that up to make sure. But we're going to go to the other brake and we'll measure that one. So it's the same thing, we tighten it up until it's fully tightened and the wheel stops spinning. Right here, so you can see the wheels locked down. And we just back it off until the wheels spin free of the drums. Alright, and we take our measurement, we get our base measurement. And then we have them apply the brakes, and from there we can do our comparison. Okay, so you can see the travel we've got. We're at just under 1.5 inches on our push rod. And we also see, one thing you need to compare is the angle of the push rod to the slack adjuster. You don't want that to be over 90 degrees, and right here you see we have a good 90-degree angle on that. And on the driver's side we also have, you can see we have a good 90-degree angle between our push rod and our slack adjuster. So they're both at about 1.5 inches, just under. So that's perfect. We're within our 3/4 tolerance on both sides. So you see we're at just under 1.5 inches on both sides. So they're very close to each other, less than 3/4 difference. So that's in spec. And with only 1.5 inch travel on the push rod, we're underneath the 1 3/4 limit. So these both look good. Both brakes are adjusted. Wheels spin freely. Everything's good. That's pretty much all there is to adjusting these service brakes on Big Rig.